Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Clean Tech Pod, where we foster necessary conversations about clean energy and environmental change. With us here today, we have a very special guest in person of Mr. Jamil, who we recently had a very interesting encounter with during a webinar. He shared very insightful discussion with us, and we deemed it fit to have him come on board and share more insights, because it looked like we were going to spend the whole day on that webinar series. So we decided that it's best that the wealth of knowledge he has sitting with him, we bring him forward and then we have him share that with all of you. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jamil. Welcome, Mr. Jamil.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and also I'm still learning, so I hope we learn together.
Thank you. Mr. Jamil, please can you just give us a little background of who you are?
My name is Jamil Mangga. I'm an exploration geologist, an environmentalist, and I would say a sustainable agriculturist, that is with a lower tone. To give you a little of my background, I've been in the mining industry for almost 2 decades now. My area of expertise mostly lies around mineral exploration, reserve estimations, environmental evaluations, a bit of a touch from the agri sector, which I've had for quite an experience over time, just for a brief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's quite all-encompassing, if you ask me. In relation to everything we're hoping we'll talk about today. So just for the benefits of, let's not start deep diving, as you said, on a light note. We want you to help us describe to our listeners what you understand or what you want them to understand about what critical minerals are.
The term critical minerals, in the simplest term that I can say, are those minerals that supports modern life and technology. Why I give just 2 words is simple. If we look around our environment, one of the basic things we see most people are having these days are mobile phones and other gadgets. And particularly mobile phone, one of the key ingredients in making those mobile phones are found to be those critical minerals. And what are those critical minerals? We talk about copper, we talk about lithium, we talk about the rare earths. The rare earth elements are a series of elements, I think about 17 of them. And another thing where it is known as the critical mineral is they are such that they are not abundantly available versus the other minerals, and that would make them critical. So even during exploration or recovery process, you find them to be very, very little in terms of percentage. Some as little as 1%, or little above, or some less than. And why you see them being represented in some of the results, maybe in a lower figure in terms of in parts per million or parts per billion, as it can maybe depend on the analysis in searching for those minerals.
Okay. I hope that you've been able to do better justice to that, because, of course, as an exploration geologist, you've used terms that are not quite very familiar with every other listener out there. So maybe in the course of the discussion, we may be expecting you to maybe come to better reality with every other person. So just to build on that a little, can we say, so the discussion out there is that critical minerals are a game changer. Because of course you said those are minerals that support development, they are minerals that support today's life, so to say. So putting it in the Nigerian perspective, what can you say the current, perspective, where Nigeria stands prospectively with regards to critical minerals, and how do you feel that can be leveraged for growth? Because if you have something that people need, naturally it's expected that, people come to you. What do you think, and where do you feel Nigeria stands, and how can that be leveraged?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to put in the context, I just want us to have a pictorial view of the whole critical mineral concept. If I can take us globally, it is on record that majority of that critical minerals are controlled by few countries around the world, in particular China. China controls over 70% of the critical minerals in this world, while the rest of the world share the 30%. And even as that, it's strategic, because it goes beyond just making mobile phones or supporting modern life, but it's a strategic mineral where a country can position itself militarily to when having those minerals. But the unfortunate circumstance is most of these minerals, part of the critical mineral, most of them are gotten from the continent of Africa. And coming down home to Nigeria, honestly, in terms of perspective, I would say that we are not doing much. To say unfortunately, yes, because some work needs to be done. Even though from the Nigerian government part, over the years, it has done its best. There's a project called the NIMEP project, which stands for the Mineral Exploration Program, which was heralded by the famous Geological Society of Nigeria through the World Bank, where some parts of the country were explored. And there's a particular region, or I would say belts, where those lithium particularly was surveyed. I think, that forms the baseline study for that aspect. I think that is best we have gone. But we've seen some pockets of individual companies now coming up to make some few discoveries, which is very encouraging, because of course we all know that the government role is to create the enabling environment for the sector to thrive. But again, it even took a step forward and put up that exploration program, which is quite commendable. But in general sense, in terms of leverage, we're nowhere on the map.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Again, sorry, sadly, I think that then will be bad news for us in Nigeria. Just to build up a little again on that. So we've not done too much to leverage. And you said even though the government has tried doing its bidding to see how it's positioning the key actors or players in that space or the market, to be able to further advance engagements. Now this brings me back to a little wonder that I know there is NGSA, Nigerian Geological Agency, who I think is saddled with the responsibility of either housing or warehousing data around the mineral richness, so to say, of the country. What do you think, has that agency lived up to its responsibility with regards data availability?
Well, if you ask me, I would tell you that the NGSA as a data repository of the country I don't think if we have anywhere or anything close to what they're having, because they were able to put up so much over the years. And I tell you that the kind of data they have is enough to kickstart any project. What I mean by any project is a lot of time people do go by saying that the country needs to generate more data, but I still insist, and I say this, with the present data that the country has, if we cannot utilize them at the moment, even if we have the best data, what I mean the best, for instance, I would like to digress a little. I don't mean to sound too technical, but some of these data are produced based on scale, and mostly on a larger scale. So should we have a data with a smaller scale, which are more precision and closer in terms of, richness of, even if we have that, if we don't have the requisite experience to use them, we'll still not be able to achieve anything. So that's why I'm saying at this juncture, the NGSA has the data. What we need to work on as a country is to develop that skill of how to use those data and put them into use.
Okay, I think that's a good one. Even though I think my colleague here had a little question too around data and its availability and the usage. Blessing, do you?
Hi everyone, my name is Blessing and I lead the Natural Resource Governance portfolio here at CTH.
I think you've pretty much covered that, but I'll just chip in a little question there. What's their current level of digitization, and how available is the data to impending investors?
If you can come up with the question again, the last part of the question.
Yeah, so what's the availability of data digitization by the NGSA for impending investors?
Well, honestly, the data are out there, and it may shock you to tell you that a lot of those data are there on the website of NGSA for free for people to access some of those data.
Okay.
Yes, I know it may shock most our listeners.
Yes. Because the problem here has always been that there's data hoarding, information hoarding, and
exactly. And most of the times, if you don't go seeking for something, you wouldn't know that if it's there.
Exactly.
And I tell you, NGSA has a very interactive website where, at least even for a beginner, where they would like to play around with some of those data to even have a first-hand idea of how those data look like, as a beginner, they're all there for them to see. And all that data, they have some of the raw data like the flown high resolution, airborne data, the radiometrics, they all have them in the office where you go and pay a token. Where I say token is, I am privileged to have seen other countries what they are charging in terms of their data access. But I tell you, compared to Nigeria, it's like we are giving out those data for free, and yet we don't utilize them. So back to what I said previously is we still need to develop skill to utilize those.
Okay. I think I'm beginning to see, the correlation of where we are and what's missing. But to just dig a little deeper into that, I remember you said something around, the financing of execution of exploration itself, or rather beneficiation, under the umbrella of general mining, and now more specific, talking of critical minerals. So, what is it that is badly needed but sadly lacking? Now you mentioned issue of developing skill. That's definitely one of it. But what other thing, do you know, having worked in the field for all these years? What is it that should be there but is still missing?
Well, to mention one or two, I would say the financing.
Oh,
yes.
The elephant.
Yeah, that's the elephant, of course.
To it.
But again, the financing again has an approach to it, which I don't mean to discount people's idea or knowledge towards financing mining, but the general concept of mining financing does not lie with the government, and that is where Nigeria keep repeating the same mistake. We have a very quite large country, so if we say that we're going to finance exploration, government, I think we can probably go a year or two without budget. So everybody will just wait for the professionals to go in out there and bring out the good news. But like I said earlier, the government, all that the government needs is to create the enabling environment. And in order to attract the mining investment, right investment for the mining, the money lies outside Africa, not even Nigeria, to be honest. Yes. Because the mining destination is Africa, but the finances are not in Africa, outside Africa. Because over the years, we've had so many bigger players in the mining space, which are termed the major mining companies, JMCs, major mining companies, MMCs, and we have the junior mining companies, which they work hand in hand. And before I explain further, the JMs, the junior mining companies, are those that goes in, takes care of those discoveries, and then push it up to the bigger players to buy off the assets and develop. And that is a concept that Nigeria should look at, because most of this financing, like I said, are out there, and you see them, domicile usually among the stock exchanges around the world. The non-stock exchanges, we have the Australian, we have the Canadian, we have the London, we have the South Africa stock, but the South African exchange, I think lately they're not doing so good. But talking about the non-major players where the funds are, all they are asking for is get us a reputable reports. What I mean by reputable reports are those reports where investigations have carried on, where they have results showing a direction, good direction as to regard the resources. And it doesn't have to be like a complete bankable report in some instances. For some instances, all you need to attain is maybe from the 1 to 5 stages of the exploration phases. Once you achieve first, 2 or 3rd, the results are there, the indicators are there. Why not? They may call it coming. But again, another challenge, or rather a stumbling block to the Nigerian mining space again, is how we have the licensing system, which I think maybe if time permits we can talk about that one. As regarding, since I said that financing is there, yes, so the licensing regime too is to look at, yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's something that we can talk about here now and then.
Well, just during I think the past administration of late Muhammad Buhari, there are a lot of engagements happened around making Nigeria a business destination. So they came up with policies that talked about the ease of doing business. I don't know if the mining subsector was touched with regards to that, because of course if licensing is a problem, of course it will stall whatever investment that easily would have flown into the sector. Do you recall having any change during that period with regards to that?
Well, for every government, like we operate in the Nigerian context, every government comes with their own policy directions. For the previous government, they said they want to roll out the ease of doing business pattern for the business. But again, I did not see that fully taken, the needed drive.
Okay.
Yes, simply because if you look at how mining have been operated in most part of the world, talking about the major mining players, those people that are bringing the right investment into the country, there are certain things they look out for in the country before they step their foot there. And one of those is how is the country's licensing regime works. For most major mining companies, they wouldn't want to come to a country and find out that there are quite a number of small-scale miners around, because that will probably, disrupt their activity. It wouldn't give them the right climate they need to operate. And that is why in some countries, talking about, we know that the government, on its part of living up to responsibility, has encouraged the small-scale mining to an extent of, it's good to recognize them in the society, by coming up with the ASM, the artisan and small-scale mining, but that itself has a negative effect, in terms of opening up the mining space. Because think about the major companies, when they come, they don't want to see those players along. Because if you look at what the law says regarding the ASM, maximum of 15 cadastral block. So, and compared to what those companies usually come for, they would like to have a block where they would do a proper exploration, a delineation, etc. But a situation where you have in between their small scales, and certainly they have to have a rethink before making their choice of coming into that country. And also, if you look at other countries, even in Africa, they tend to carve out some corridors, and to assign those artisans to operate along those. And some countries even have taken it down to the alluvium. What I mean by alluvium is water places, yes, where they could just operate from that. And they have some certain kind of mineral which they allow them to operate in order to keep those places, open for bigger players to come in.
You just answered the question I had in mind, because we've talked about the problem of not having enough investment. And if we're to keep as a country, if we are to keep the industry alive and moving, and the big investments are not coming, so directly I'm beginning to feel all we're left with is the small and artisanal miners who keep the industry alive, keep it moving, even though they are not able to do so much. Maybe the country is still visible in the scale of mining activities. But you've clearly answered that, giving examples of how other countries, even in Africa, had delineated specimen or angles of engagement for small artisanal miners.
I can furthermore. I am not saying that the government should do away with mining small scales, or they will, but the danger is the nuisance, the environmental distortion, they create can be so overbearing on a country in the near future. Because we all know that there's some issue of policy implementation, and rather not just the mining sector, but most of the sector in the country. And having such a large number of ASMs on our fields, probably in the nearest future going to pose a lot of danger to the environment, because the country is grappling with a lot of challenges from environmental degradation, pollutions, etc. And all those things, imagine a situation whereby pits are being dug, and what is underneath is being brought to the top, and water washes it into the canals. And in some of those communities, those are the kind of water they rely on as a livelihood sources. So definitely there will be some kind of problems that are going to be detrimental to their health.
Yeah, problems of community and public health.
Exactly.
So you've actually just gone very much in the room we wanted you. Because we're coming to, so the issues of resources being domiciled in places, and as natural as we would expect, these places belong, so to say, for maybe customary rights, belongs to a group of people. So it means their communities, even if it's not closely linked, but maybe not too far away. So the issues of mining and communities or host communities and the rights of those communities and the privileges of those communities, even though we've not been able to, as you clearly mentioned, that major mining activities are not happening, but we know that there is a legislation in the Mining Act that allows for benefit, and of course again knowledge of community adjacent to mining sites, that they get a fair share of contribution and permission and so on. So having been in the field, how has that played out so far? Because of course now we're linking that resource availability, extraction, and the antecedent insecurity. What can you say, regards that on the field?
Well, for community, I would like to say this in one, they've been neglected, despite government efforts to see that they're being streamlined and they're being carried along. This country has a very wonderful laws in terms of mining coverage, and the communities are not left out. We have what is termed as the CDA, the Community Development Agreement, which is a requirement that needs to be upheld before every mining rights are given. And what it entails is you need to first get a consent from that community.
Okay.
After that, you need to go back and sit with the community and agree. And even this very administration have even added a cap, again, more like an icing to the process by reviewing the CDA, in a way that now, unlike before, where it is only the prospective investor, that's the license holder, and the community sits to agree. But now it has gone further to even engage the presence and the services of the federal mines officer, as well as a security agent to also be witness. And those kind of agreements will be sealed in an occasion where everybody will be there. So I don't think, more like it. So I don't think if there would be any other thing that somebody can think of better than this. Again, but over the years, so much had happened where people will be in their community and license will be given out to somebody who they've never seen, and the next thing he moves in and tell them they have this, and if their voices cannot get to certain quarters, that will be the end of it, and at the end they are the ones to be at the receiving end. And also those are the things that can brew to create all sort of animosity between mining communities and the operators. So that needs to be I would say that needs to be enforced, not to be worked on. But like I said, the laws are there wonderfully written, where every step has been capped and laid only for the government and the players to implement it and to see that it has worked in favor of the community. And also to add this, in the previous years, what I mean previous years, before the advent of our 1999 democracy, we were told by our seniors out there that during the NMC, the Nigerian Mining Corporation days, it is there wasn't the prevalence of the ASM, artisanal small scale miners around, because simply the laws then was, if an operator find itself in a community, they engage the community to work for them. So they will take certain workforce from the community to operate in that very field, and also will also take care of part of the CDA also. And the CDA could come in form of maybe building schools, building roads, electricity, or medical facilities,
whatever the desire is.
Exactly, whatever the desire is. So that was what was obtainable then. But with the coming, all those things happen. But I believe going back to that model would really change things to where they are, because most of this operators needs to be pushed, because we all know that we are Africans, we are Nigerians, so sometimes if we can have some kind of soft policy and where people don't come and check, we can just decide to do it the way we want it, which affects the government.
I have a question there. I see some reports where people are like, we need a separate agency, you need to be regulators in the mining sector. What do you think about that? Do you think the MSND and all of its departments and agencies are currently doing a good job, or do we need an external regulator?
Well, my take on this is simple. Yes, they need a separate agency. Yes and no. Okay, let me explain here. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that there's certain component of the sector I think that needs to be unbundled. If you look at the number of upcoming mine sites or licenses that were issued out compared to the workforce on the ground, these are things that needs to be looked at, because the very department, I think that the saddle responsibility looking at out on the mines is the Mines Inspector Department, the MMSD, and the MMSD alongside the MEC. The environmental compliance, if you put the two together, you don't have the requisite number to look out for those mines. And if you look at so far, I think Nigeria has something around 12,000 licenses issued.
Okay.
So with that, versus the people on ground, because the law says they need to go and inspect, they need to make sure that those companies comply, the rights to them, their issue of quarterly reports, so many activities around it. But you most times found them helpless. They could not do anything, because if you go to most of those states, a whole department with maybe 2 or 3 vehicles, they cannot go around, and maybe among the 3 vehicles, not even all are functional. So it's quite a tedious task ahead of them. So I feel the department, like the mines inspector, can be made an agency. Why not? So that no hands can go there, and even and I don't mean to digress, and even issue of getting remittance back to the government, because they are the one that looked at also the issue of royalties for the government, because you are an operator supposed to pay a royalty into the government, even though the royalty are nothing compared to most countries, and again, yeah, they are quite lower compared to other countries, but yet most operators don't pay that. So if the mines inspector could have the needed manpower and the needed tools to work with, why not? And I think one of the things I'm thinking, inside my head lately is, and I thought, okay, if the MI is struggling with getting its royalty, it can also work along the other government agency,
exactly.
like the Ministry of Works, for instance. I can see some toll gates are coming across the country.
Okay.
The Ministry of Mines and State Development can leverage on that. They could have some sort of a weighing bridge by the toll gates, where all those vehicles are coming. They need to go there. They told them to check their papers, where they pay those royalties. Are they correct? Because they can do an electronic generated payment where it shows that, okay, I've paid for, let's say, 30 ton, and if you are found to have 45 ton on your truck, certainly you pay for it and penalized. So there are some little things I think that but for other departments of the ministry, I think what they need to look out for more, or to focus more on, is the synergy, to create synergy amongst themselves, because that way the government stands a chance of getting a lot from the players, the operators, so to say, in the mining sector. Because even going back to our earlier discussion, something about data. I said we have the data, but again, with this kind of with the synergy, we can be able to produce more better data to the existing ones. Why I said this is part of the requirement of having a tenement license in this country is every 3 months you are meant to submit what is known as the quarterly report, and and the quarterly reports clearly will show the progress which you're going. That's for the exploration lease, and also for the SSML, the small scale mining lease. It has a tenure of 5 years. The ML, the mining lease, that's the bigger one, has a tenure of 25 years. So at the end of every segment, there should be there's a place where you're supposed to be reporting back to the government about your finding, because mining is a continuous exploration. Just because you found a resource here, it shouldn't mean that you are just there and you stop. As you are exploiting that mineral, you're bringing it out, you are exploring for further field in order to sustain your production. So that's how it's been done in the mining sector. And by way of creating synergy, for instance, the Geological Survey Agency and the Mining Cadastre, because Mining Cadastre Office gives out the license, while the Geological Survey are the data repository. So those quarterly reports should go to the NGSA, you see, because NGSA is made up of professionals, mostly geologists, mining engineers, etc., who can look into those reports. But the role of the mining cadastre is mostly lies more of administrative. So you can see with that kind of synergy, even operators will sit up.
Yes.
Because if you have been called, for instance, that okay, hello, Mr. A or Company A, you have not submitted the quarterly report. Why? The next time they will submit, and once they submit, we'll look at okay, or rather they look at okay, what do you have in there? Okay, tell us how you come about this. Okay, I've gotten to a level where, or rather they've gotten to a level where they have a core samples. Okay, tell us what's your discovery. And with that, the government can build database conveniently and easily. And this model has been adopted in most part of Australia, particularly Western Australia. That's one of the models they're using. That made them to look as if they have. So why not we look at this kind of
we have the policies, we have these frameworks, just that. So, just as you said now, if they synergize,
yes,
and as you said, the report has been brought, and see what we've done over this quarter, the mining inspectorate can go on the field and vet, using the report. So I think, as you said, we have clearly the mechanisms in place. Just the issue of implementation. Okay, so that that just took us directly to the question I wanted to ask. Because during the webinar, you talked about, you highlighted the issues of governance and transparency challenges. The last statement you made now, is it possible to tie it to the issues of governance and transparency, or there are several others that will come on board regards them?
Well, I think there are several others, but at the moment, if this would look into, I'm sure in the nearest future, we should be able to have a robust database and a working system, and the involvement will be spread in terms of who interests, and the workload will reduce in certain quarters, and it creates opportunity even for graduates in Nigeria that has to do with the sector. Yes, and these are the kind of things that we're talking about. If a company should engage the service of a geologist, and the issue of quarterly report comes, tell me who is supposed to be saddled with that responsibility? Certainly the geologist or the mining engineer.
Yes.
And that way, that person could also sit up, because he will face people from the same scrutiny, exactly, from the same discipline as his or hers. So certainly that person will find a way of developing their skill to be able to meet up with that challenge. So you can see, basically, with the synergy, the system could check itself gradually.
Well, we take it these recommendations of example. Let's say
Yes,
you have
for this question, I don't have any input yet, so
okay.
we'll move to the next one. But I like the connectivity, how we flowed from the beginning up until now. Very excellent point, sir.
Anyway, you mentioned that you talked about AMREC.
Yes, he did. So during the webinar, you talked about AMREC and PAC. So you said this framework is going to help us bridge the financing gap in Africa. Can you throw some light on that? What are these frameworks about?
The concept of PAC, the Pan-African Resource Reporting Code, is a wonderful one. It's an initiation or an idea that is long overdue. Africa should have its own reporting standard, just like other part of the world. But here is the challenge. We talk about financing. Earlier I said those needed finances are not found in Africa, are found outside. And the stage which PAC and AMREC are, they're still at the conceiving stage, championed by the African Union. Until it comes into life, what option do you have at the moment to attract financing? Anyway, that's not a question, actually. But I'm just trying to lay it one after the other.
Okay.
There's a JOC, there's the NT104, and others. And the whole idea of having those reporting codes, it's simple. Over the years or before the advent of the JOC, professional scientists go about reporting, their findings in a different formats. And now JOC came and said, okay, hey, let's look at how we can have a standard reporting code where every report should follow suit as to A, B, C, D, etc. So that those documents could be bankable. Bankable in the sense that every financial institution who have affiliates or who wants to invest can accept that reporting standard. And that's exactly what the JOC stands for. I'm happy that is the concept where AMREC, the Pan-African, the PAC, are also coming up with. But again, I'm happy to hear that AMREC are coming. But the challenge is, would the other part of the world accept the PAC? Despite us, Africa, having those resources. And how long are we going to wait before our PAC will be ready? So does that mean that we should just hibernate and wait for it to happen before, without looking towards the JOC or encouraging our professionals to go towards JOC and wait for that investment to happen? That is the $1 million question.
Wow.
I always throw out there for people. But for me, personally, my take is let us go out there and get those certifications. Because I think I'm privileged to have met some Africans who are JOC compliant. And even the projects that was done in Nigeria, funded by the World Bank through the NGAC, it's a JOC certified competent person that certified the job. So I know there have been a lot of saying here and there that why can't we develop Africa, to an extent that some people have been tagged as anti-Nigerian or anti-Africa because they don't support the idea of PAC. But the answer is no, it's not like that. Until our own is ready, why can't we go and get theirs first?
Make so what is available.
Yes, exactly. Let's do with what is available so that we can attract the right investment. And I tell you, with the JOC standard report, every trading houses are ready to look at your report. Other than that, they throw it in the trash.
It's been like 1 hour already. Of course, it's been almost an hour, but of course the conversation has been very thoughtful, seated from a deep level of experience, having done that in the field and over the years. I'm sure our guests at this point will be wondering when we're wrapping it up. I'm sure they're enjoying it, but sadly, not to again cut too much out of your time. I'm imagining if it was supposed to be a consultancy visit, we We'll be paying through our nose at this time.
Not really. Honestly, I'm happy to share my thought and insight on this kind of conversation so that the information can get out there. Because honestly, we need to do more in terms of getting information, or rather the right information, and how to fix up right. That will catapult us to get us to where we want to be. But we can't just be doing the same thing year out and expecting different results.
Okay, so Mr. Jamil, having come to this point, can you just tell all of us what would be your topmost recommendations as to where, to move us from where we are today to where we need to be? First, in Africa competitiveness, and then in the global competitiveness with regards, first, minerals in general, and then secondly, critical minerals.
Okay, I think if you permit me, I would like to put the two together, and
okay,
because minerals and critical minerals are literally the same component. Most time, where you take them, where you separate them is at the beneficiation stage, the processing stage of it, and for Africa, we need to develop, or rather continue to develop our skill, because that is very crucial. Without the right skill, you can never attract the investment. And also, we all know that most of the African countries document, when the multinational come, they always encourage knowledge transfer amongst our people. But I think we should not continue to go cap in hand waiting for them to come. We can develop our own knowledge, because knowledge are out there. We can send our own, or rather invite people to teach our own, mentorship, learning at different level. It shouldn't be going to the university, or even mentorship, because for the professional, even at their own level, they could look at how they can impact the environment, and giving them more knowledge. Secondly, I would say developing local production and processing. These are things that, thanks to the wall of China, back in the days, we thought that most of this beneficiation, for instance, processing cannot be done at the smaller scale. But now we've seen, from cement industry, the industrial, talking about the industrial mineral, to the metallic, to and others, they are modular processing for those. So encouraging local production will really boost the African market, as well as get more opportunities to Africa. And again, thirdly, I think there should be kind of a synergy among African countries in terms of coming together and speak with one voice. Because what is going out there, mostly in African countries, is more like a divide and rule that's been done to the continent of Africa. You find out that countries, for instance, like the DRC, you see them, dragging on one side and the rest on one side, a few, 5-6 blocks from one continent that should be speaking with one voice. And lately some opportunities are out there for African, mining countries to, take advantage of. But I'm surprised some African countries are not there yet to key in, like particularly DRC, etc. I give an example. During the concluded Future Mineral Forum. Future Mineral Forum is an international gathering that usually holds in Riyadh. The Saudi government, part of their Vision 2030, they are trying to see how they could expand their mining space, which they are doing very well, of course. So they have dollars so much, I think over $100 billion to invest in Africa. But again, it's been third year since the commissioning of the African Strategic Group, they call it, but yet it always ends in meeting and talking. So unfortunately, creating synergy among Africa will make us more stronger and to make us, decision makers in the mining space globally. Thank you.
So these are very, very key, powerful, and you did it very nicely. And they said, I don't know if you believe that the triangle is the strongest shape.
It is. I think I could even use that particular phrase and write a report on this podcast with that.
Okay, so he has given us the strongest, I think, takeaways that we can, then further engage with and then bolster discussion and, of course, take them up. Mr. Jamil, thank you so very much for agreeing to come on board and talking to us and then sharing your knowledge. We heartily congratulate you, and to our viewers, we appreciate your time, and till another episode, thank you for joining the Clean Tech Pod.